Good afternoon, my friends. This is the Grimflayer. Hope you're doing very well today. Hope you are ready for yet more uncharted territory on this channel. We are playing Rakdos Shadow for the first time ever, and I believe for the second time ever playing a Shadow deck in general. This, though, is not a typical Shadow deck. Neither, as I recall, was the only other one I've ever played. It was a bit of a mid-range Shadow mashup. This is kind of a mid-range prowess Shadow mashup. It's a super interesting deck, and as soon as I saw it start to catch fire, show up in challenges, show up in the top tiers of the meta share, I said, you know what, this deck looks really, really powerful, and also really, really fun, and I am therefore very excited to be playing it with you here today for the first time ever. This is a donation league from Lame Boy. Lame Boy is a confidant and also a direct donor, and he is responsible for the donation that funds this league. So thank you so much, Lame Boy. Big shout out to you. And let's talk a little bit about the list. So the way I have it laid out here for you, hopefully it's easy to really parse out. We have 16 hyper powerful threats. We have the 8 core threats of the red prowess decks in all of their various shades. They pretty much always play 4 Swifty, 4 Soul-Scar Mage, and then we also have 4 copies of Death's Shadow, and on top of that, we kind of have shadows number 5 through 8. In the form of Scourge of the Skyclaves, which is a very, very powerful card. Now, all of these cards are kind of premier threats in their own right, but they all do need to be built around to various degrees. Alright, we're back. My client lagging even in this retroactive intro. More on that in a moment, but it's a good thing that we can afford to build around all of these together. So let's start at the top. At the top of our threat curve, which is 2, CMC2, Scourge of the Skyclaves, well, we need both players to be losing life in the early turns. So one way to accomplish that is with a very painful land base, and believe me, ours is very painful. With only 18 lands, we have 10 fetch lands, we have a full complement of 4 shock lands in the form of Blood Crypt, and on top of that, we have a pain land, Sunbaked Canyon, a bolt land in the form of Agadeem's Awakening, Agadeem the Undercrypt and MDFC, and then 2 basic lands, because you need at least 2, basically, in just about any deck if you can possibly justify it. And all of that pain will enable Scourge one way or another in terms of lowering our own life total. But in terms of lowering the opponent's life total, we need to be able to attack them early and often and or point burn spells at their face. Sometimes the opponent will do our work for us in terms of implementing their own Fetch Shock land base or paying life for other things, right? But Scourge does need to be enabled. You cannot rely on your opponent always and forever to do so. Therefore, Scourge is supplemented very well by the red prowess threats and by the most powerful red burn spells, of which we have 4 lightning bolts and 3 lava darts. So Scourge is enabled by all of that stuff, and Death's Shadow is enabled very well by the land base that we need to play in order to justify Scourge. So all of this stuff really happens to work quite well together, and Scourge of the Skyclaves and Death's Shadow, while they are not prowess threats and therefore don't synergize inordinately well with a card like Lava Dart, for example, at the end of the day, they are still hyper-efficient, aggressive, low-costed threats that are trying to attack the opponent to death. And therefore, even though a prowess threat has the most synergy with a card like Lava Dart, ultimately, Lightning Bolt, Lava Dart, the black threats, the red threats, they're all accomplishing the same thing. Rounding out this column here, this is kind of the interaction column, where we obviously can point these bolts and darts upstairs, but they can also do a very good job of controlling the board in many situations. 4 copies of Thoughtseize is one of the premier disruptive forces in the entire format, and it's yet another card that synergizes well with our black threats, which thrive off of life loss. Ditto Dismember. Dismember is like the Thoughtseize of removal spells in terms of how good it is, but also how painful it can be, and the pain we are kind of judoing into our own advantage here with this deck. And we have a 1 of Unearth. So the initial list that Lame Boy submitted to me had a 4th Lava Dart in its place, but I reported back, probably played like 9 or 10 tournament practice lobby matches just here and there before bed prior to this league, and Unearth is a card that I found myself actually wishing for. When I touched base with him after my initial testing, he proposed 1 Unearth instead of 1 Lava Dart, and I was happy to take him up on that. So for this league that we're about to play, we will be jamming a single Unearth. In the final column here, we have things that are not mid-rangey. So all of these cards are mid-rangey or prowessy or both. Over here, these are kind of the shadow cards. By and large, of course, you do see a card like Crash Through, sometimes even the free spells and prowess, but I hope you understand the point. These are evasive cards and or free spells, so they're either going to grant our creatures evasion and or power them up and or blow out opposing attempts to interact, to block, etc. So we have 2 copies each of Mutagenic Growth, free spell, free prowess triggers, pumps are huge threats. Temur Battle Rage, a classic shadow finisher that pairs decently well with the prowess threats. It's not bad. It's really good with Shadow and Scourge, but it's really not bad with the prowess threat either, under a lot of circumstances. Crash Through, a good consistency tool, supplementing the 4 Mishra's Baubles, giving us a high density of cantrips and a good way to churn through the deck while also generating evasion in the form of trample. And speaking of evasion, Apostle's Blessing enables you, if you main phase it or cast it during attacks, anytime before blocks, you can attack through a mono-colored blocking board. Alternatively, you can blow out opposing removal, all for 1 mana, and again, it's another painful card, but the pain is part of what we are after. So, that is our main deck, and I did briefly mention the Baubles. Well, Mishra's Bauble is very, very good broadly in this deck, with the prowess threats, with the low land count helping us make land drops, and also with all of the fetch lands enabling us to do a lot of pseudo-scrying. But more than any of that, it is a free loop that we can establish very easily with our companion, Lurrus of the Dream Den. So as if this threat suite was not strong enough in and of itself, we also face the prospect of using our free 8th card in our opening hand in the form of Lurrus to buy all of these threats back, should the opponent be so bold as to remove them. And also, we can do a similar impression of the Lurrus effect with Agadeem's Awakening. If we don't need this for a land drop, we can cast the front half of it, buy back sometimes a 1-drop and a 2-drop, which is just kind of living the dream on a deck like this. In the sideboard, besides Lurrus, we've got a ton of really powerful spells. I just really, really think this deck is so cool. We've got a full 4 copies of Fatal Push. Gonna feel great to bring these in a lot of matchups. But unlike Lightning Bolt, Lava Dart, Dismember, Thoughtseize, it is not as universally live, nor is it on plan in the sense of it being painful to our life total. Therefore, it is better conceived of as a sideboard card in a deck like this, if you ask me. Now, doesn't mean you couldn't find a way or a meta to main deck 1 or 2 of them, but ultimately, it looks weird from the mid-range perspective to sideboard the full 4 Fatal Push, especially because it's so good right now. It's so well positioned right now, but that's what we're doing, and I do think it checks out. The logic makes a lot of sense to me. Inquisition of Kozilek, similar concept here. It's a Thoughtseize, but it is less on plan, so it's kind of our 5th Thoughtseize effect for when we need to deplete the opponent. And speaking of depletion, 1 Kolaghan's Command in the side. Would be cool to have access to more shatter effects. You could easily include a second one of these. You could find space for a Braid. We don't have that here, but that is something red-black color pairing does very well. 2 copies of Kroxa. Very, very good in grindy matchups, even against Leyline of Sanctity decks as a way to burn through their resources without getting hosed by Leyline. Great against big mana combo. Most control decks, Kroxa's the man. And then 2 copies of Nihil Spellbomb. Grave Hate par excellence in a black fair deck, and of course can be looped with Lurrus. We round out the side with 2 copies of Cleansing Wildfire, which I find it very difficult to leave home without these days if I'm playing the color red. And we also have 2 copies of Kozilek's Return. There's a good amount of pro-red flying around the format right now. Auric Champion is arguably the most common, and she is pro-red and pro-black. Very rude, so it's nice to have outs to that in addition to some of the other ways we can get over the line against those types of threats, and more broadly, it's just a well-positioned card in prowess because it doesn't kill any of our threats almost ever, and it can wipe the opposing board, or it can at least X for one small creature deck. So that, my friends, is the list that we're playing today. Now, you are about to see a live recorded league, but I am recording this intro retroactively, even though I had already recorded it before the league. Why? Well, it's because I need to explain. Round 1 was a complete mess. I had to end up scrapping the recording, and basically I was disconnecting and reconnecting and lagging, and my computer doesn't multitask all that well. It's not a very powerful machine, so I ended up just trying to play the game and forgetting about the recording. I almost forgot about recording the whole league, but then I said, no, we'll just do what we can with round 1, and then we will keep recording, and the rest of the league is smooth sailing. Rounds 2 through 5 are going to come to you live right as I'm done with this introduction, but round 1 was a mess. I could not live record it, and I also right now cannot access the replay, so I'm just going to kind of need to run it by you in terms of a recap. I'm going to kind of tell you what happened. It's not as exciting as watching it, but it is definitely better than nothing, I hope. But the 4 rounds to follow are going to be as normal. So let's wrap up the intro here. Thank you so much once again. Big shout out to Lameboy for bringing us this really cool deck. Thank you to all Patreon supporters as well, and thank you so much for watching. And without any further ado, let's talk about what happened in round 1, and then I'm going to drop you in to round 2. Okay, so bear with me, guys, because I don't have a functional recording of round 1, nor can I access the replay. It's got the gray screen of death where, the replay loads, you press play, it lags, and then it says that somebody conceded the match, right? So I'm going from memory. Memory might not be perfect, but we were against Bant Spirits in round 1, and we had a really, really interesting decision point in game 1, which we lost, that maybe a more savvy Shadow player than myself would have made the right one. I was at 12 life, the opponents just got a Vial on 3, they're representing Queller, they've got some untapped lands. I think they had a bit of a board presence, but nothing too crazy. And I also was only drawing 1 land. I drew 1 land, kept a really powerful 6 spell, 1 land opening 7, never drew another land for the entire game. That's really why we lost game 1, but I wonder if I could have won it. I believe it was on turn 3, I was at 12 life, and I had the chance to just play a Shadow. I had a hand full of interaction that I was holding up, and I had some information about the opponent's hand, but the opponent kind of next leveled me by just doing nothing. They just did nothing on my end step, and therefore I was they kind of time-walked themselves, but they also time-walked me in doing so, and because they had the ability to double spell, perhaps even triple spell through their Vial, and I never drew a second land, we got max punished for it. So maybe I should have just tested the waters for a Queller, tried to cast a Shadow, gone shields down for 1 turn. Maybe I could have won the race. That was kind of an interesting spot. Wish I had that replay to look back at and show you, but either way, we lose game 1, mostly, I think, due to never drawing a second land. Our hand was so strong, just couldn't draw a second land, got tempoed out by the spirits. In game 2, we sideboard, bringing in all of these cards, the K command. I wasn't sure whether to play 1 or 2 Kozilek's Return against Spirits. I think I ended up playing both. So we pivot to kind of like a Rakdos mid-range deck as much as we can, and side out a lot of these cards in this column. That was my approach, and it worked really well. Even though we are not Jund, or are we? We have a green card here, and the rest is red and black. Maybe we're Jund, maybe we're white Jund, with Apostle's Blessing. Either way, we Jund them out really hard in game 2, just 1 for 1ing them, eventually 2 for 1ing them, and beating down with some really efficient threats. Game 3, unfortunately, they do get us. We don't get land screwed. I don't think I made any questionable decisions in game 3, but the opponent was on the play. They kept a really powerful 7, and they had a turn 1 Vial that we couldn't answer, and they had a triple Queller progression. So I think 2 copies of Spell Queller we could have fought through, but they also had an Auric Champion. on turn 2. So they kind of had like the ability to block our big threats infinitely and to tempo us out with the Quellers, all while attacking in the air, while doing everything at instant speed. So they had every single avenue covered, and our hand was really, really strong too. Again, if they didn't have the third Queller, like in the first 4 or 5 turns, and the ability to double spell every turn, I think we would have found a way through. I ended up drawing a Kozilek's Return to take care of the Auric Champion. We just got tempoed up by the Queller, so it was a really cool round one rather. Game 1 was the one that got away. If we had drawn a second land, we get there. Game 2, we get there. And Game 3, like, we made them have a nut draw. They had a nut draw. Spell Queller OP. So, sorry we miss out on round 1 yet again. Internet connectivity has been really bad here lately. More often than not lately, if I try to play Magic Online, at one point or another, I have, like, my internet go down. That happened early, and it is smooth sailing from here. So, thank you for your understanding with that, and let's jump right into round 2. All right, friends, it is round 2. Round 1, we lost. I don't know if you saw, frankly, any of that. Internet connectivity has been really bad around here lately, and let's just see. Hold on, let's make a decision. We're going to keep the quadruple Soul-Scar Mage hand. Wow, took me a second to actually see that. Round 1 might be totally gone. I don't know, I need to go back and review. Are we against Oops All Spells? Is that what this represents? I don't recognize this land in particular, but it could very well be. Having drawn a second land, I think I'm going to value racing them. They kept 7. I don't know how realistic it is that a Thoughtseize makes their whole hand crumble, so we're going to play a Soul-Scar. The next turn we'll plan to Thoughtseize. Yeah, so I don't know if we have any of round 1. I'll need to review that. Maybe I'll go back and add it. Okay, looks like we are against something else. Something I'm not familiar with. Fair enough. Since I'm not sure, I'm just going to Thoughtseize now. We get to redeploy it after a Remand, for example. Always think of Remand when I see blue-red decks. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. Is this just something that, like, Storm is playing now? I'm not really certain. Remand it is. Okay, free prowess trigger for us, but it does still admittedly slow down our progression, because Soul-Scar Mage is waiting another turn, but I'm still going to do it now. Disrupting seeming pretty important against just about any deck playing Remand, and indeed it is Storm. They've got 3 cost reducers. Oh my goodness. I don't think we can afford to take any of them, so Monomorphose, Pyretic Ritual, I guess we just take Monomorphose. Force them to try to draw some kind of an action card. Right now, all that their hand and board does is cheat on mana, which is a very powerful thing to do. But that's all you're doing. Doesn't actually do anything, right? Just going to dismember this guy. How much worse does Soul-Scar feel than Swifty here? We might be, like, just about winning if these were all Swifties. We've left ourselves dead to, like, a very moderate minor grape shot, too. Worth noting. But I don't think anything has been incorrect. I think the prospect of drawing Shadow or Scourge outweighs the prospect of playing around a grape shot, you know, with all their cost reducers. Maybe the grape shot's just really good if they find it anyway. But I'm not certain about that. In any case, here comes another Baral, I assume. Yep. Oof. Look at us. Look at us doing nothing. Look at us doing nothing. We're having some... You didn't see round 1, but we had some major wrong half problems in round 1, too. This is brutal. This feels so winnable, but it's not especially winnable right now. Just have to hope the opponent's similarly lacking. Just gotta play another Soul-Scar and put Lurrus into hand. Apostle's Blessing looking pretty awful here compared to, like, any red-black card. Any normal, modern, playable red-black card. But it's not in the deck to beat Storm. It's in the deck to beat other things. Uh-oh. Opponent finally cast in the Ritual. They went bottom with the Opt, but it seems like whatever they dug toward is good. It's gifts ungiven. So they've used the Ritual. Their hand is Electromancer, 2 unknowns, plus the 2 will give them off of gifts. And I don't really... I think maybe our best line is to assume they don't have a 4th land in hand. So they're showing us Monomorphos, Ritual, Grape Shot, Past in Flames. Think we're supposed to give them the Past in Flames. And I mean, do we have any outs? We definitely give them the Past in Flames. So if we give them a Ritual, they cast it for 1, they make 3. They Monomorphos to have 4. So if they don't have another Ritual, if we just bin the win conditions, I think that's correct. Oh no, sorry, we're going to give them Past in Flames in hand. So if we give them Past in Flames and a Ritual, and they have the 4th land, we just kind of screw ourselves. But if we give them Monomorphos and they don't have the 4th land, they get an extra draw. I'm going to bin the Grape Shot. And I'm going to bin the Ritual. They had another Ritual. Alright. Severely punished. Because now they get to see another card off Monomorphos. And they had the land anyway. Like, they just had it. Okay, so now they get to... Well, let's just see, I guess. Yeah, PIF. There it is. Rough. Like, rough luck, I guess. I mean, in a way we got lucky that their hand was so unbalanced, but ours was even more unbalanced. We will bring in Inquisition. We will bring in Kroxa. We will bring in Spellbomb. You could bring in K-Command. I don't know that I will. We could also bring in Kozilek's Return as a way to beat the Goblins, but I don't think that's probably where we want to be. I think we just want to kind of disrupt them, heavily erase them, and then attack maybe through the Goblins with a card like Apostle's Blessing, but leaving that in just for that seems kind of bad. You can leave TBR in as maybe more justifiable. Alright, so I'm going to put Apostle's Blessing, Kolaghan's Command, like 1 Kozilek's Return, and maybe a Fatal Push to represent those all together in this pile. I think we can trim Unearth. I think Lava Dart's not the greatest, but it's a good racing card, so that could be trimmed and considered over here in the same pile. Everything else we're doing looks great. Is Dismember or Fatal Push better? Like, they both do the same thing. It's just, is the life loss actively good? Yeah, I guess it is. Excuse me. So, we have to cut 4 of these cards. I think I'm going to cut the Blessings. and cut the K return. Just not going to worry that much about them having an unbeatable goblin board off of Empty the Warrens. We have Crash Through to help beat that too. So one more card to cut. Let's just cut the Kolaghan's Command, I suppose. Put a premium on being able to race them rather than outgrind them. Although the opponent did show us green, so Veil of Summer is likely. I guess it's like guaranteed. I shouldn't even say likely, I guess it's guaranteed. And we have a no threat hand, but it's a really good hand. And we're going to see a bunch of new cards, so I think I'm supposed to keep it. Goes kind of counter to how we sideboarded in that we're geared a little bit more toward racing than grinding. But it is, I think, okay. Simply because we have so many high value cards in hand, and we have so many redraws that we're likely to find a threat soon. I'll never really complain about facing Storm. It's a cool deck, I think. It's a cool matchup. It's a powerful one, but it's one that also rewards opposing interaction. I do hate that they've adopted Veil of Summer, but I don't blame them for doing so. It's like, why wouldn't you? When I first saw the fetch lands, I assumed it was a Storm deck playing Blood Moon, which they sometimes do, but now that we've seen green, I expect the fetch lands are just to accommodate a 3-color mana base. Rather than bauble myself, I'm going to bauble the opponent for maximum information. OP might be double queuing. Apologies for that. There we go. We see they're about to draw a Pyretic Ritual. And we see Baral and Opt in 5 lands, really? I think we're going to take Baral. Even though we have a Fatal Push, I think leaving one Opt in hand as their only action spell is okay, and saving the Fatal Push for an opportune second target, or also just like not telegraphing that we have one. Because if we telegraph that we have one, maybe they slow roll the Baral a little bit, maybe it can still kind of beat us. Thankfully, we have drawn a Swifty. That's really good. So I'm going to go Swifty into Spellbomb here, rather than Lava Dart, although if I didn't have a Spellbomb, I would happily cast a Dart. You know, with our emphasis on racing the opponent and with them probably playing Lightning Bolts into Braids for removal, you could definitely see leaving in Mutagenic Growth too. I've cited it out, but I should mention that for the sake of completion. Opponent will top with that Opt. They found another Spire Bluff Canal, so there's only one unknown in their hand. We've drawn Kroxa, huh? That actually seems medium. Let's attack here. It's gonna Lava Spike them, so I guess we're gonna do it. Hold up all of our other effects. The nightmares that they've drawn are a Remand, because then we waste our turn in a big way, and they get to see fresh cards, and we also don't Lava Spike them, but looks like the big guy will resolve. They pitch Breeding Pool. I didn't expect that. It's got to be one of the only green lands they play. Why not pitch a Scalding Tarn there? That's what I expected. Who knows? Hope you guys are having fun seeing some shadow action. Minus the shadows, at least so far. Another Kroxa. Well, once again, I'm probably just casting it. I don't want mana inefficient turns. And, like, the second Kroxa actually matters, maybe, in terms of getting lands out of their hand, but they do have more than enough to operate. Once again, just a really unbalanced draw from us. Okay. We'll be able to kill them next turn if they don't have anything. But, like, one reason I've been playing the Kroxas instead of the burn is, like, shoving all in is unclear against Storm. You know, they could maybe bolt in a response in the right spots, but also they could just, like, have a bounce effect for our attacker. Okay, they found a Baral. They have a ritual. Hopefully our Spellbomb can disrupt it. It really sucks that we have just, like, pushes and bolts caught in hand. But this is what our unbalanced progression does to us. I don't think playing the Kroxas has been wrong. Especially if the opponent's just going to Monomorphose and whiff. That seems good for us. So they still have the ritual. We have a Soul-Scar Mage. Alright, Fatal Push. So are we supposed to shove all in here? Dart puts them to 6. Attack puts them to 2. Lightning Bolt puts them to 5. Attack puts them to 2. Yeah. Let's make sure we're doing that right. Yeah, 5. Yeah, they're not quite dead, so with that in mind, I guess the best play is just to attack for 2 here, hold up our removal, in case they have another cost reducer off the top. Also just being mindful of, like, the Vapor Snags of the world. Alright, I'm going to bolt on the end step. We're wasting a point of damage that way, but I think it's fine. Playing around Remand this way. No, they're dead if they don't have anything. Ritual in response. Okay. Ritual, yes. Empty the Warrens is a sorcery, right? Triple ritual. Okay, they do have a gifts. What can they find to stay alive? Here is the question. They're going to have 3 mana at their disposal. They're totally empty-handed before this resolves. Opponent going deep in the tank for this one, which you understand, they're dead on board. Okay, Braid, Lightning Bolt, Monomorphose, Opt. Interesting. No surprise to see them go get the removal, I guess, and I guess we should just bin the removal. Make them cantrip into something that keeps them alive. Another way to look at it is just like give them the removal and then put them at a virtual 1 anyway with the Lava Dart. Win with our creatures, but I'm going to try to win right now. Opponent bottoms with the Opt. Here comes that Monomorphos. They make blue and red. Two fresh cards followed by the concession. All right. They made us sweat it out, but we did get there. We had a clunky but strong progression. On the play. Probably not doing anything differently. I did mention Mutagenic Growth is not a bad card. But neither are a lot of the other cards we're leaving on the bench. Kind of like exactly one Fatal Push seems good to supplement the bolts, the dismembers as removal for the bears, and every other card in our deck is awesome. So yeah. Submit deck. Triple discard. Once again, no threat, but there is absolutely no way we can send this one back. The only thing I'm afraid of is, you know what? I'm not even going to say it out loud. We'll keep, though. I don't know if opponent's playing Serum Visions. We haven't seen a Serum Visions yet. I was going to say, let's hope they tap out T1 for Serum Visions. They're in a shock in a breeding pool, representing you know what. We can't have that. Oh, that's so bad. That's so bad for us. Okay, I think I'm just going to play Nihil Spellbomb. So if we're going to play Spellbomb, we want to Bauble. I'm going to Bauble the opponent. I don't value scrying all that much right now, my own deck, just because like our 60's so good. Let's Bauble OP for a little info. Aria of Flame? Dang, good to know, I guess. That's a tough one for us to beat, though. Opponent opting in response, okay. Swifty. A good draw. Because now even if our interaction gets veiled, which I guess it's not, they're going to tap out for Baral. That's also bad too, but at least we get to double discard spell with them being shields down, which I'm absolutely doing. Inquisition, they have Aria, Monomorphos, Opt, empty the Warrens. So we'll take the Aria and the empty. Okay, so they bluffed Veil of Summer. They got us with it. Because we had something good to do on turn 1, I think it was fine. If we didn't, I probably would have tested the waters and risked it. OP on those Secret Lair Opts. The Yargle. Opponent turning on a shadow, if we had one, with the attack. We have Mountain. We have drawn Mountain. Alright, Swifty, Thoughtseize. Triple discard showing up big. Notably, opponent tapped their green land. Maybe they have another one to fetch if they wanted to, but... Opponent bolting in response. Okay, I mean, that's not good for us, but... Okay, Salundi Vision. Also Salundi Isle. Look at the top 6, reveal an instant or sorcery. I guess we're supposed to take that over the Monomorphose, is that right? Look at the top 6, instant speed, or the kind of free cantrip. Yeah, at this stage I'm going to take away the pseudo-tutor effect, I think. How interesting. How very interesting indeed. Wish we had a shadow to play right now. That'd be nice. But we're gonna cantrip with a Spellbomb on the unstep. Hope to fade nutty top decks from the OP, and then yeah, draw something. I mean, we can put Lurrus into hand, but that's pretty slow. Okay, OP has top decked a land. Not very good for them. Okay, show us the love. Lava Dart, Blood Crypt. Come on, deck. Come on. Oh, no. So bad. Alright. Thought about playing the fetch land to represent something at instant speed, but honestly, like, every point of life total does matter right now. We just have to hope the opponent is getting as unlucky as we are. They are. They draw another land. They're being patient with the Monomorphose, which I think on the long average is correct. I think it's possible they do just decide to cast it, though, at some point. Now or next turn or whatever. But... they're fetching, I guess, just to thin, but they're tanking over the decision. They have 2 steam vents and 1 breeding pool already on the field. I wonder if it's possible they don't have a shock land to get. This is pretty intense, maybe taking a little longer than it needs to, but it's still pretty intense. Alrighty. So, we just have a 60 filled with so many good draws here. Almost everything besides what we have already drawn would be awesome here. They go get Island after much deliberation. Then they're attacking. And then will we see a Monomorphose? No. Will we see another land from us? Obviously. Unreal. Okay, so... at this point, I think I'm just, like, buying back Bauble over Swifty. I don't really have faith in our ability to race the opponent all that well. I mean, we can't really do anything about their spells off the top, so I think I'm supposed to Bauble myself here to scry, to find just something good. Verdant Catacombs, well, we need to fetch that away right now. Unbelievable, but I'm glad we did it that way. Glad we did everything we did. We still need to get lucky here, but... Okay, there's a shadow for us. Just in time to kind of non-bow with our Lurrus. Opponent's going to finally kick off with the Monomorphose. Hopefully that does not mean they found something great. Hopefully it means they're desperate. And to be fair, that could be true because we do have a loop where we're drawing 2 cards per turn. We're unwinding the damage they've done to our life total. They don't know that it's a little non-bowy with Shadow. So there are many reasons for the opponent to feel like they need to just blindly Monomorphose if they've drawn yet another brick. On the other hand, if they draw a good action card, it would be a cue to go off with the Monomorphose. They're going to Grape Shot the board. Okay, I mean, that makes a lot of sense too. And now we don't need to worry about non-bowing with the Shadow anymore, I guess. Okay, we've drawn Soul-Scar Mage. We'll lead there, and then we'll play a Shadow. Hopefully we don't die next turn. We'll have a nice big TBR potential on the unstep. I think we can conceal info with that Bloodstained Mire. We've already fetched all 4 of our Shocklands. And we only have 1 basic defection. We can do that next turn if we deem it necessary for the Shadow to get there. We draw another Shadow, huh? Going all in. I'm going all in. I mean, given how little we've done, like, proactively or interactively, I think the opponents should have been wary for TBR, but it's probable they just can't do anything about it. They're just supposed to make us have it. All right, guys, we're on the board. We're 1-1 in the league. That was a really interesting match, and I like how we got there in the end, finding some shadows at the right time, but geez, did our flooding make that tougher than it needed to be. But we did keep a no-threat opening hand, and despite having, 16 threats in the deck, 17 if you count Lurrus, that is definitely a risk that you run. So I think our interaction really shined. A lot of the times we'll find a threat earlier. This game will be a lot easier. In this case, we made it tough, but we get there. Good times. And we are immediately here into round 3, winning the die roll, declaring a companion, and looking at a pretty good opening hand in terms of like being proactive. It doesn't interact though. And we're against Abash, so we are, we're against the mono red aggro deck, the M. Hayashi version, I suppose. I will keep the hand. And plan on getting on the front foot and then using Bauble to sculpt my early draws. I guess that's the play. So, sure, a grudging keep. So to that end, what we want to do, I think, is grab... Well, no, we'll fetch and shock once right out of the gates. But we're going to hold the Bauble. And use it next turn for a nice huge swing off of double Swifty. So next turn we can go Swifty into Bauble into Scry, the top of our own deck. Opponent will Flame Slash us. That's fine, ultimately. It's never great, but in context of our hand, it is okay. Unfortunately, we draw another land off the top right away, which is so bad, but let's prevent that from happening again, I guess. Soul-Scar Mage off the top. Do we even want that, or do we want to shuffle it away? Obviously, it's better than a land, but I think we need to find interaction. So I'm going to shuffle it away. Remember, we are eventually planning to get Lurrus online and buy back Swifty, the Bauble, whatever the case may be. We draw another Temur Battle Rage. Man. Hands like this remind me of why ultimately I do prefer mid-range to Shadow. I can't stand like this type of wrong half problem, but hopefully you will just like have an awesome curve out from here and it won't really matter. So part of me just wants to put Lurrus in hand this turn. But then next turn we play it, we're putting off the Thoughtseize for a long time. I think we're going to Thoughtseize and trust in ourselves to draw a good card next turn to make our sequencing not punished. They have Light Up the Stage, double Spyro. Oh my goodness. Well, as tough as the Spyros are to slog through, you know, they're only going to be able to cast one of them. The other one will get pitched to it, so I think I'm going to take Light Up. And then I think I'm probably supposed to TBR here, even though it kind of sucks. So we turn the TBR into like a deal 4, which, if they hadn't removed our first Swifty, would actually be great. Because they have it, I don't know how good it feels overall, but it's got their life total nice and low-ish, to the point where if we rip a Scourge of the Skyclaves, it's probably going to be pretty impossible for the opponent to beat. So we rip a Shadow. Yeah, that's not bad. So if we Fetch and Shock, we go to 9, the Shadow's a 4/4, we can put Lurrus into hand. I guess we'll do that. Opponent's deck is super cool. Our deck is super cool. Modern is sometimes pretty cool, right? So we still know about the Sunbaked Canyon. They show us a land we don't know about. They are a bit flooded, but they can always put Abash into hand, which that's what they do right now. Fair enough. Us with a Swifty, huh? Alright, so let's say next turn they go land Abash, all-out attack. If we block something with Lurrus, we'll be able to live. They should not be able to kill Lurrus and attack us for lethal, unless they have like a nutty few cards. So with that in mind, if we go Lurrus, play Swifty from hand, buy back Bauble from the graveyard, how good is our attack? So it's not bad, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense, I think, for us to take a more defensive posture, because we're drawing 2 cards per turn. We're representing either the ability to strike them back for lethal with a big TBR on the Shadow, or the ability to kind of lifelink and grind them out of the game with Lurrus. So with that in mind, buying back Swifty from the graveyard is like also okay if we're not attacking this turn. I think maybe we are attacking this turn, don't you? It's really hard to say. Opponent seems like they're sixth. Well, I bought the Bauble back first before playing the Swifty, so maybe that was bad. I still haven't really decided about the attacks, though. I'm going to Bauble myself, see if we want to hold up like a Fatal Push or something. Okay, it's a Soul-Scar Mage, huh? I'm just going to play this and say go. Make the opponent find a way to beat our board. Okay, so we know about Abash. There's 3 unknowns. They just slamming the big guy this turn. Yep. Bloodstained Mire. Very, 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 very interesting. So this is where my expertise is not with is not with us here, is not on our side here. But we can put the Shadow to a 7/7, then TBR. That's got to be worth a lot. So I think we're just supposed to play the land, buy back a Bauble for some prowess, and then attack with everything besides maybe Lurrus. But maybe also even including Lurrus and make them find a way to beat that. Got a Soul-Scar to block on the way back. Seems pretty good. We do have another land to fetch and shock, right? There's no other Blood Crypt in there. Okay. I'm going to buy back Bauble and then Bauble myself once again. No, let's Bauble the opponent, because we're going to fetch and shock it away anyway. They're about to draw Blood Moon. Interesting one. Main deck Blood Moon. Alright, fair enough. I hope I don't throw this game away with this attack. But let's see what they do. Okay, so if we Fetch Shock TBR, our Shadow becomes a 7/7, a 14/14 does 12, that's lethal, right? I hope I'm not missing something. I am, again, pretty new to TBR and figuring out shadow lines and all the rest. Assign 2, yep. Okay. Very nice indeed. Very nice to beat that deck game 1. I don't know who's favored here. You know, we probably are, because it's probably so hard for them to deal with 8 Shadow and Scourge type cards. So yeah. That's cool. We got a lot of good stuff to do from the sideboard as well. Push is great. Inquisition seems good. Kozilek's Return, Kroxa, Kolaghan's Command. You could play all of these cards, honestly. Maybe because we have what I perceive to be a pretty good matchup, I'm not going to play K Return. It's got high upside, but I don't want it rotting in hand. is we lose to like Bone Crusher, Giant, and Abash and stuff like that. That'd be my thinking. And it's just a matter of finding the right balance, because I think like almost everything that's in our deck is still good, but we're probably supposed to cut Mutagenic Growth, even though it's fine in the matchup, just because we have so much to do. Unearth and K-Command both seem pretty darn good here, too, this recursive style stuff, including Kroxa. I value all that pretty highly here. Apostle's Blessing is like and TBR are both good ways to win through a mono-red deck, but again, we have so much to do. I think maybe I'm cutting Lava Darts, but if they show me Bomat Courier, I'm going to be sad about that, and if we have to just, like, erase them, I might be kind of sad about that, too. But why don't we just, like, not get cheesed out by Burn and by Aggro, and we'll trim, like, a Thoughtseize or two. Focus on answering the board and deploying our own threats, and then we need to make one more cut. So do we want to play with, like, only one Kroxa? Maybe we can do that. I think this is a really good configuration, and I think a lot of different configurations would also be really good. You guys let me know how you would side here. Maybe we're not supposed to have all four of the TBR and Apostle's Blessing effects in. I'm not sure. This is a 2-lander, but they're the only 2 lands in our entire deck that don't produce red. But it's got double Bauble, double Scourge. I'm going to keep it. We're on the draw. We're going to see a ton of cards. And the hand is very powerful, too. We're punished. We draw a red spell right away. I'm going to begin by bobbling OP. They're about to draw Swifty. Big yikes. We could get aggroed out here in no time. We're about to draw Dismember. Nice intel from the Mishra's Bauble, so I will play out a Swamp and plan to Dismember a threat next turn. Show me a red land too. Uh-oh, we're drawing red spells. We're drawing Lightning Bolt. Opponent firebolting us. We'll Dismember. Still losing a ton of life. Still can't cast any red cards. And the opponent's still at 20, so we can't play our Scourges. So we're experiencing a fail rate. Red land. Another Dismember. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What a weird way to lose, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. I'm going to main phase this Dismember so we don't get blown out, because we can't afford anything else to go wrong. Then I guess we need to draw Death Shadow, or we need the opponent to, hey, Fiery Islet, if they tap that, we can play a Scourge, but it'll be a 1/1. So Scourge is amazing if your deck is casting red spells. Because it's not, we're looking a little rough here. But if we draw a red land, we can play a red spell and a Scourge. Instead, we draw another red spell. Okay. It's indescribably unlucky, if you ask me. Some might look at this and say we should have mulliganed it. I really doubt it. Our hand was nutty. Just needed a single red land. Or to not draw this many red spells. But we're rolling over and dying here in game 2. Abash into hand. Us drawing yet another red spell. Okay, that was embarrassing. What are you going to do? At least it was over quickly. Yeah. So, if you look at our 60, it's not even that red. You know, we're literally drawing, like, only these cards, and none of these cards, and the only spells we could cast both cost us 4 life each. Couldn't make it up. In any case, that, again, I repeat, was a little rough. Why don't we... I want to do anything differently. Like, on that progression, I want to play a Kozilek's Return, but that won't happen every time. Shouldn't happen all that often. I'm going to put a second Kroxa. Maybe, am I? Yeah, I think Kroxa's pretty good. There are a lot of situations where, like, they can't, like, if they put Abash into hand, we can Kroxa it out of hand when we're otherwise trading off resources. I think cutting, like, a Blessing or a TBR here is fine. I don't know which one it should be, honestly. Blessing can blow out removal. I kind of want to cut one of each, even though they're fine, and play maybe a Thoughtseize, probably not. Maybe a 1 of K return is cool on the play. Or maybe we just get a Lava Dart back in. I'll play Lava Dart. All right. Show me like a good, balanced, functional hand. Doesn't interact. We just can't draw balanced hands to save our lives, but we're still doing okay despite that. Swifty Shadow Scourge Apostle's Blessing, I guess, is a keep. We have, though, what? Well, I won't bother counting, but we have so many interactive spells, it's insane in the 60 post side. What we don't want to see here really is turn 1 removal. We want like both life totals to get lowered. And that involves, like, maybe the opponent playing a creature instead of a removal spell. Yeah, I think this is okay for us here. Especially because we draw a Lightning Bolt. It's pretty good. So yeah, I'm just going to bolt this and swing. Or holding up Apostle's Blessing. Don't know if I'm meant to use that on like a Flame Slash or something if they just main phase that. I probably will. Haha, that's exactly what they do. But they played another land first so they could respond with another removal spell. I think that'd be fine with me. So I'm going to go for it. We're getting our Scourge and Shadow online here this way. And hopefully it works. Hopefully they don't have another removal spell in response. They do. Lightning Bolt. Alright. We draw Swifty, huh? Interesting. So we can play Shadow and Scourge, but then they are... Scourge is only a 3/3 unless we play Swifty and attack with it first. Then Scourge is a 4/4. That'd be pretty good. Alternatively, we could play Swifty and Shadow. With Shadow as a 2/2 that could become a 5/5 if we fetch and chuck. But then we're less mana efficient. Do we want to give them credit for like exactly another Flame Slash? If not, maybe Swifty into Scourge is the play. Just for mana efficiency's sake. I wish we knew it was on the top of our deck, then we could perfectly sequence. Or if we had hand information. This is a minor decision, but I'm thinking about it here. think I'm going to get the Shadow down. Faction Shock, we're putting our faith in that. Putting our faith in that plan. Cannot be Flame Slashed. That seems relevant enough to do it this way. We're also hardcore bluffing another Apostle's Blessing, which we do not have. And also being able to connect next turn is going to make our Scourge in the second main phase gigantic. Blast Zone. Oh my goodness, Blast Zone was not on my radar. That I can tell you. They're going to Firebolt us. What? They're okay, to turn on Light Up? I mean, I get it. They're punished, though, because they let on the Blast Zone. If they hadn't let on Blast Zone, they could have gone Mountain Soul-Scar. Major sequencing error from OP. Do we run out that Swifty into the Blast Zone for an extra point of damage to make Scourge better? I kind of doubt it. Let's just say, can you beat our 12-12 while also blast zoning our threats? The answer is no, I'm assuming. So the opponent either has to make some chump blockers and try to take it from there, or hopefully they don't just double bolt us, but they're only 13 cards deep. They've already seen one bolt. That's just impossibly unlikely. Scourge of the Skyclaves is a heck of a card. And again, we do have Swifty coming down next turn for a potential assist. So OP not using Blast Zone. What are they going to do here? They're going to cast a Bone Crusher Giant. Okay. We've drawn a Kroxa. Well, if we attack with all three, they have to chump. With both? Like, if we only attack with the two big ones, which is my first inclination, then maybe they just say, let's hope they don't have a way to lose life. So we attack with all three, which does leave us a little soft, maybe to a haste threat and the wrong cards, but I think that's correct. Alright, I'm going to get a card out of the hand with Kroxa. Flame Slash. Aha, we played around it. Feels good. I also think I'm supposed to play Swifty as a second main phase blocker. I know we walk into Blast Zone this way, but if they spend their turn Blast Zoning, they cannot remove a 13/13 with one red mana. If I know anything about Modern, it's that. So let's just play that to be mana efficient, and also to make a blocker in the case of a haste threat plus burn spells threatening lethal. But opponent will relic, cantrip, find a land, and then scoop. Wow, those were some awesome games. Apologies to opponent for being the one that's low on the clock. That was our opponent last round. This round it was me. To be fair, I think we had a lot of really interesting decisions to make, and hopefully for you, the viewer, it's fine when I'm low on the clock because I'm narrating and I'm talking about interesting things. But for the opponent, maybe less interesting. I always feel a little bit bad about that. Great games to BR Leonardo. Apologies again for taking so long, but we are 2-1 in the league. Back here for round number 4, my friends. Doing decently well on the debut. Are we in a mirror match, or is it a different Lurrus deck? Well, we'll find out shortly. I guess this hand's a keep either way. It's once again not the very most thrilling. We don't have an early threat. Okay, definitely not a mirror match if they lead on Forest, so this could be like Counter's Company. I always call it that. I'll probably call it that forever. A really devoted combo, but it's not that either. It is Hardened Scales Affinity. So, we have drawn an early threat. That's pretty good, Monastery Swiftspear. One option is, of course, to race by deploying her. Another option would be to Thoughtseize right away, but because they kept 7... and because they didn't go turn 1 Scales, I think I'm supposed to play the Swiftian race, but obviously this could end up going either way for us. I really dislike this matchup ever since they adopted Lurrus. It's just so hard to interact against. It's like cool in that it is skill testing and unique. Oh, they have the Scales anyway? They have 2 Scales? What? Not what I was expecting to see, but alright. Clearly Thoughtseizing now. Hope they only have like 1 payoff in hand. Throne of Geth, sack an artifact to proliferate Arcbound Ravager and Spellskite. I guess they kinda do only have 1 in hand, and it's the Ravager. Spellskite's a good blocker, though. We've drawn Scourge, okay. We're going to go nice and big. Next turn, if we want to, we can deploy Scourge and Shadow. OP with a Spellskite, huh? I guess we do kind of want to do that, don't we? We've also drawn Soul-Scar Mage, which is fine. Might as well bluff attack here. OP calling the bluff. Should it be Shadow or Soul-Scar Mage? Play the Shadow, I guess. OP with Metallic Mimic. They're clunked up, but with double Scales and an Ozolith, there's a whole lot to be scared of. We've drawn Bloodstained Mire, huh? Actually seems pretty good. Simply because it makes the Shadow a real attacker. And we've got TBR for the win if they don't block here. If they don't, like, block anything here. Yeah, I don't think we need to do anything else here. You just put Lurrus into hand and play the Soul-Scar. Alternatively, we could hold up Sunbaked Canyon or consider cracking it, but think we'll do this. I think this sequencing makes them less likely to think we have TBR. Not that they can hopefully do anything about it anyway. Yeah, they just concede. Wow, winning game 1 like that against Scales. Pretty lucky, but they kept a powerful hand with clunk potential, I guess. Never hit the third land, didn't hit enough payoffs for this stuff. Our one Thoughtseize was really well timed because we didn't really have any other removal. Okay. Hopefully we can steal one of the post-side games as well. That'll be great. I think we like Inquisition all 4 pushes, probably in K-Command. Wish we had more shatter effects than just this one. Kozilek's Return ×2 is probably correct. You could justify literally every card in the sideboard, actually. Because Wildfire, they do play some utility lands, but I'm not going to play Wildfire. Spellbomb against the Lurrus. It's definitely not bad, and Kroxa is definitely okay, but I don't think we have room for the latter. Are we really going to try to bring in these 9 cards? I think the answer is yes. They all look really good. Obviously, they can spiral out of control in the face of a K return, but I also think we should probably just play it. I'm going to cut Apostle's Blessings, Mutagenic Growths. I'm going to put the TBRs over here into this pile. Let's cut the Unearth. I think like swapping out a Thoughtseize for an Inquisition is a fine trade. And then we still have 3 cuts to make, and our whole deck is still pretty good. Let me think about this for a minute. Gonna mute, have a sip of coffee. All right. I think I'm going to cut 1 TBR. I'm thinking about cutting like a 1-drop threat. That might just be wrong, but I'm kind of thinking about doing it. Maybe we shouldn't. Thinking about only playing with 1K return. Again, probably just shouldn't do that. I'm going to trim a Crash through even though there's nothing wrong with the card whatsoever. We just have like so much to do. And still need to make 1 more cut. Alright, I'm going to cut the final TBR on the draw. We're all in on disrupting. And I don't know whether that's correct. But sideboarding with this deck is tricky in a certain sense. In that it feels like it's hard to kind of go wrong totally. But it also feels like it is difficult to feel that you're completely optimized in a lot of matchups. There's a lot of gray. A lot of gray areas in what we're trying to do here. Our hand is totally acceptable. Double Bolt, Thoughtseize, double land, Bauble, Crash through. So we have 2 cantrips, 3 pieces of interaction. In 2 lands, it's a definite keep. Opponent saying, Nurturing Peatland, go. Well, that looks like a Veil of Summer. It could also be a bluff, but we've drawn Kolaghan's Command. Okay, I think I'm going to bauble the opponent here. See what's on top. Having drawn K-Command, I don't mind drawing a 3rd land at all. They're about to draw Animation Module, which is a 1-drop. I think I'm just going to Fetch Shock and Crash through here, trying to curve out to the 3rd land. On the one hand, the Animation Module allows them to like play a 2nd land, play the module, still hold up Veil, which is bad. On the other hand, it really gives the game away in some ways if they... I don't know what I was going to say. Like, if they only have 1 land, maybe they don't... and they just pass, maybe that gives the game away, but... They do only have 1 land, but they tap out for Hardened Scales. Okay. So we've drawn the 3rd land. That's pretty cool. We also have a Kozilek's Return and another Mishra's Bauble. So we can bauble the opponent for maximum insight, or we can bauble ourselves to control our draw even more. I don't know what's better? I think I'm going to bauble the opponent here, but it is borderline. They're about to draw the Ozolith, so once again they have all the the backline stuff. We just need to Thoughtseize a payoff here. They do have Veil of Summer. Maybe we have to Thoughtseize that, actually. Yep. I think we basically do, especially because they have 3 payoffs, Walker, Ballista, and to a lesser extent, Metallic Mimic. They also have Inscription of Abundance, so there's a lot to worry about. The game's going to go long. I've got to take Veil, I think. Because we know what they're going to draw, we can just play that tapped. Which is not clear that's correct either, right? Oh, we draw another Thoughtseize. Okay. Maybe a little punished, actually, for taking Veil last turn, but it still seems totally fine. So many options here. I think maybe we just K-command right now. Tag the Ozolith, make them discard. I want to get Scourge down, but I don't want them to draw a land and just trade their Walking Ballista for it. It's unclear that this is correct. But it's a really good line overall. Like in a vacuum. And I'm worried about them going tall with the Ozolith more than I am them about going wide with an animation module, simply because, as always, we have this K return in hand. And here is our Scourge and another... Okay, Scourge is 3/3 because they're losing life from the Nurturing Peatland, so yeah, we'll just Thoughtseize, hold up all of our bolts for next turn after playing the Scourge this turn. I think we just take Hangerback Walker here. Opponent with another Ozolith. That's one way that our K-command line could get punished, but are they actually going to die to these bolts? I think they might. I'm not used to winning like this, but they sure are. Oh my goodness, Scourge of the Skyclaves OP. Oh my god. Yeah, okay. Scourge is nutty. What are you going to do? What are you going to say besides that? That was crazy. Now, obviously, a lot of things went our way. Opponent kept a 1-lander. The 1 land happened to be a Pain land. The Pain land happened to allow us to turn on Scourge while interacting maximally without having to, take a turn off of interacting to bolt them to turn on the Scourge. And all of that is pretty good. As it turns out, because we drew all the bolts, and because of that... it almost doesn't matter what we did in the turns prior. There's just no way they were possibly beating that without drawing a second land and without us failing to draw what we did. So I spent a lot of time on some decisions. They ultimately ended up not mattering, but they could have. And as I say, a lot of things did go well for us. So yeah, we cash the league running really hot, and we still have round 5 to play. So this deck is really impressing me, and I will see you for the final round. And here we go. Round 5 it is, and it's another 1-lander, but it's another really powerful 1-lander. I'm going to keep it. We've got three 1-drop threats, a Thoughtseize, a Mutagenic Growth, and TBR. So it's a good racing hand if we draw a second land. Oh, but they go Leyline. What? Okay, they mulligan to 6, they go turn 1 Leyline. Bruh moment. All right, then. With no Thoughtseize, our hand suddenly looks miles worse than it used to, right? Now, granted, we have one dead card in hand. They are kind of 2 cards down, just because they mulligan to 6, and then one of the cards is a leyline. Snow-covered plains. Yeah, I don't know what we're against. Silence. Should I Mutagenic Growth in response? I have no idea. I don't know what this is. Sure, I'm going to Mutagenic Growth in response. Just to say that we beat the silence to the punch here. And we've drawn a Crash Through, which really punishes us for getting silenced, just because if we could play Soul-Scar this turn, then Crash Through next, we would be in pole position to start just aggroing them out. Mishra's Bauble. Yes, cast it. I'm going to immediately Bauble. Well, we have to Bauble ourselves due to Leyline, and it might technically be better practice to do it on their upkeep. Can't imagine a world in which it matters, but I also have no idea what we're against, so we could be walking out into like an Anger of the Gods or whatever, but there could also be other strange things afoot, so we're about to draw another Bauble. I mean, short of a second land, it seems okay, and assuming they can't wipe our board, it seems okay. They're going to Blood Moon us, so it's a red-white prison. I don't know what Silence is doing in the deck necessarily, but fair enough. Okay, well, we can still Crash Through under a Blood Moon, and we can still Bauble under a Blood Moon, and we can draw another Bauble. Let's go. Soul-Scar Mage OP. Still no second land, though. Okay, opponent goes down to 6. Let's keep cashing in our baubles. Opponent suspends a Lotus Bloom, plays a 4th land. Okay, no mana shortages over there. Phyrexian Unlife. Still no second land for us. Well, Crash Through is a good draw, though. Still just unable to crack through the Unlife this turn. This is buying the opponent so much time. On Thin Ice. We'll continue to buy the opponent time. I think I'm supposed to... Oh, I cannot even Thoughtseize here. The only spell I can cast is Apostle's Blessing. Doing that puts them to 0, which allows us to start infecting next turn. I think I'm supposed to. Because, like, technically Blessing could beat removal or something, but I think at this point we're Blood Mooned out of a lot of our spells. We're just kind of banking on them not really having removal. This is a tough call, really. Maybe we're not supposed to. Yeah, I'm going to change my mind on that. We're just not going to do it, and then we're going to ditch our Thoughtseize here. Can always hope to draw that basic swamp, and suddenly things are looking a little different, aren't they? Instead, we will draw Dismember. I'm going to discard a Shadow here, because it's currently uncastable. Alright, hopefully the Lotus Bloom doesn't actually matter for the opponent. That would mean they had a 7-drop in hand. Or I guess a 5/6 7-drop. Apparently it does. Okay, it is Enduring Ideal. Great, I think we just probably lose here. That's super annoying. Form of the Dragon. For the rest of the... So, Enduring Ideal as Epic. For the rest of the game, you can't cast spells at the beginning of each of your upkeeps. Copy this spell, except for its epic ability. So, the beginning of their upkeep... Yeah, okay. Form of the Dragon plus Unlife is the combo. It's going to control our board and make it so they can't die. And then we draw land right after the fact. So I'm just going to concede. Don't think we can beat that. Certainly not main deck. Probably not even post-side. We don't have Feed the Swarm or really any outs to enchantments. This matchup could be pretty bad for us, honestly. But Kroxa, I'm definitely going to play. Seems amazing against them, especially because it works on their hand through Leyline, despite Leyline. Cleansing Wildfire is strangely appealing because we can get out from under a Blood Moon, and we could also hit an On Thin Ice land from the opponent. So I might play that. I might also play Inquisition at the risk of it running into Leyline. Don't think we want any of this other stuff. And I'm sure we've got some stuff we can afford to take out. Main deck, I guess if we're thinking about all that, we could put K-Command in there as well, but I don't know how good that is, honestly. I think it's weaker than the other possibilities. So, why don't we cut Dismember? I think Apostle's Blessing is the weakest of the free spells, and I'm probably going to cut it to bring in Wildfires and an Inquisition. Then we need one more cut. Maybe it could just be a Lava Dart or a Lightning Bolt. Or a Mutagenic Growth. Could be Unearth too. Yeah, I'm going to do the Unearth. I was thinking Unearth can still be cycled under Blood Moon, and maybe they play red removal, but I'm feeling like On Thin Ice and then maybe Sweeper effects. I don't know how, which could potentially mean Anger, right? So I'm not sure how good that is. All right. Well, we're against an off-meta deck. We'll see what we can do here post-side. This looks like a good hand to me. I'm going to keep it. There's no Thoughtseize, but as always, they could be... Let's hope they, like, mulligan deep toward a Leyline, right? Our hand can wreck a deep mulligan Leyline hand. So far, so good. They mull to 5. This is what we like to see. And that's a Leyline hand. All right. Ask and you shall receive, huh? Well, let's get this party started. We are going to get some damage across with good old Swifty. And then Kroxa, Scourge of the Skyclaves, Crash Through, Temur Battle Rage. It's all looking really good. I'm getting a threat down of some kind here. Probably just a Scourge. Next turn, if we don't draw land, it'll be, sequencing decisions will be really interesting. If we do draw land, we can pretty freely lead on Crash Through, and see what that yields and decide what to do from there, but obviously the idea is to maximize everything. We want to maximize damage, we want to maximize efficiency. We have drawn a land, it's Agadeem's Awakening, so sure, we'll Crash Through. Mishra's Bauble, I accept. I guess just in case we want a TBR at instant speed, but I can't imagine that we do. I think we're just chunking in here, putting the opponent to 13, more importantly, putting our Scourge to 7/7, casting another one. I don't think they have any 3-mana sweepers that can take care of 7/7s, at least I hope not. And we present a turn 4 kill. The opponent will concede. All right, that's how it should be. That's how it should go. Let's try to do that again in game 3. We didn't see anything new. They didn't cast a single spell. They just performed an opening game action with Leyline of Sanctity. They played, well, Nykthos is new, but doesn't really change anything for us. Maybe confirms that Cleansing Wildfire is an interesting card to play, and that's probably about it. So I think we're just going to run it back and hope for the best. Well, we kind of seem to have low agency in this matchup for the most part, so I'm just happy we've already cashed the league, and that way if we get lucky here, that's amazing. If we don't get so lucky here, well, it's still okay. But we're going to get lucky. The opponent is going to get unlucky, more importantly. It's a totally fine keep. Opponent will mulligan. Let's go. Let's go. We're keeping. Down to 5. Down to 4. Okay. Seems good for us. Seems really good for us. Lucky, lucky. Lucky ducks. Okay. So I think I value seeing the extra cards early more than I do the extra point of damage under these circumstances with a stacked hand but only 1 land. Therefore, I will begin with Bauble. Just going to Bauble the opponent, I guess. Needle Verge Pathway. Okay. Cool to see that land getting a little play in Modern. We hit the second land right away, which is nice. Opponent will on Thin Ice. Our Soul-Scar Mage. Let's make sure we realize what this does. Enchant Snowland you control. When On Thin Ice enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until On Thin Ice leaves the battlefield. Meanwhile, Cleansing Wildfire reads, destroy target land its controller may search. Put on the battlefield. Yeah. So I think we're probably supposed to Wildfire that now just because it's more mana efficient than Thoughtseizing, and like those are our only 2 real plays. We can't cast Scourge yet, otherwise I might just do that. And I should probably also get basic Swamp in case of Blood Moon, which is going to take away the need for us to Wildfire away our own stuff to beat a Blood Moon. Yeah, I think I like it, and it's also just spicy, so I'm going to do it. Got the Soul-Scar back. Feels good, man. Opponent making land drops, though. It's certainly part of what they need to do here. We have Agadeem's Awakening, so are we. Let's begin on a Thoughtseize, though. I think now's the time before they get to, like, their 4th land. Okay, they're just going to concede. Fair enough. I was like, do not tell me we're lagging out here at the very end. Alright, we're just going to concede. I accept. Well, there you go, my friends. What a strong debut. How good did our deck feel? Even in many cases where we had obvious non-bows, we still were able to scrape over the line. When we didn't have, like, the wrong half of the deck problem or synergy or just synergy issues or just a major fail rate, the deck looked insane. The deck looked insane. Now, granted, our opponents mulliganed a lot more than we did, especially in that final round. I don't remember us mulling anything except a no-lander one time. So, keep it in mind, we had some good variants. But yeah, that was a 4-1 debut. Right now, because I'm live recording this after having had a lot of in and out issues in round 1, I was just disconnecting a few times with my internet. I was lagging when I came back, and my computer's not very good, honestly. I don't have a great machine, so I was pausing or scrapping the recording entirely during that time. So I don't know what I have recorded of round 1 right now. I will bring you something. I'll bring you a summary or replay, something like that. But round 1, I felt we got pretty unlucky. I also didn't play optimally in round 1. Spirits are a really tricky opponent to navigate against, that we were against Bant Spirits, and I also am new to this deck. So in a couple ways, I don't believe I played optimally, but I was dealing with the lag and the DCs and trying to just stay in the game, and it was too much to also commentate and also play well. It was a bit of a mess. So the point is, we 4-1 despite that. Maybe a savvier pilot than myself could have won round 1 as well. I don't know. I need to look back. Again, I'll try to splice in a replay of round 1 or splice in a summary of round 1 if I don't have enough live footage to show you. Leaving that aside, it's kind of a low agency round 5. The opponent did their thing game 1. They didn't do their things in the post-side games. We ruthlessly exploited that with a really fast enough clock. There are faster clocks out there, but a pretty fast clock, right? And some decent disruption, especially in game 3. Hardened Scales, admittedly, also hit a pretty bad fail rate. We exploited that ruthlessly. We had some good interaction all lined up for that, too, and a really nice coup de grace with Scourge of the Skyclaves as well. And then we had some narrower, harder-fought wins in the middle stages of this league against Storm in round 2 and against M. Hayashi Mono Red Aggro in round 3. So this was a sweet league. This is exactly what I hoped for. I hoped for like a nice, strong 4-1 result. I hoped for a wide variety of gameplay. In many cases, we are functioning more or less like a prowess deck. And in other cases, we are just alpha striking them with a single Scourge of the Skyclaves backed up by some lightning bolts and everything in between with plenty of interaction. As soon as I laid eyes on this deck and really looked at it, I was like, okay, I love mid-range so much. I always will. This might be mid-rangey enough, but also top tier enough for me to really, if I had the time, commit to grinding with this. Maybe I should just make myself grind. Maybe I should become sleep deprived and delirious and grind towards some 5-0s and some harvest all the play points and chests and stuff. Feels like it could be done with this deck. Right now I don't have the time to really play that much, but if I did, I would probably be jamming this one again, that I can tell you, and maybe we'll make some time to play it again soon. Who knows, my friends? But thank you so much for watching. As always, you can let me know what you think about the content as a whole in the comments below. This was one of our quicker leagues, I assume, so that always feels pretty good when I'm a busy dude with a lot to do. It's a quick league, but we had a lot of impactful decisions and a lot of what I hope is entertaining gameplay. Thank you so much to all Patreon supporters. You guys do make it all worthwhile, and thank you especially today to Confidant tier supporter Lameboy for suggesting this deck, for working with me on the list a little bit, although, it's not that far from stock. We did talk about some interesting options, and ultimately we went with this. Lameboy, I think this is right along the lines of the kind of success you've been having with the deck. I hope you enjoyed this one, my friend. Hope I played okay. Obviously, there is a learning curve with this. I think a lot of my mid-range decision-making translated well, and then with some of the, more shadow-specific stuff, I felt a little more uncertain. But this is an easier shadow deck to pilot than other shadow decks. There's not a third color. There's no permission. There's no street wraith. A lot of the really high-tier decision-making, both in terms of sequencing and in terms of stuff like keeping opening hands. It's not as challenging here, I have to assume. And this is a great deck, if you ask me. I'm happy to run it back again if the patrons so decide. Next up, we have, I believe, Lurrus Rock. We are back to the roots with good old BG the Rock, good old Golgari midrange, featuring the cat, the OP cat, who was also a major feature of why we did so well here, although in many cases the game was over too quickly or was virtually decided before Cat was online. In a couple other cases, the free 8th card with recursive power helped us bury OP. This deck can kind of compete racing, grinding, anything in between. I love it. This was really fun, and I'll cut it there. So thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you soon. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And I'd also like to remind everybody that we have another Discord tournament coming up. We have already started playing the Swiss rounds. It is Battle for the Bob. I don't know if I should tell you what the parameters are, but it's not a normal modern tournament. Why don't we just do that for now? We'll say there's a major restriction on deck building, leading to some wild and crazy brews that have been flying around the Discord for the past couple weeks. And as we did with Battle for the Veil, when it comes time for the top 8, we will be recording them, commentating on them as they're being played, and they will be uploaded here for you on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that, and I will see you, I hope, for the next video. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon.